So here's an example of number 25, assignment C. It says John claims that the minimum or average score, the minimum average score that Math 1-to-1 students can achieve is 65%. You are given the task of testing the above claim or the above hypothesis by first completing the topic, research question, hypothesis in symbolic form, and the objective. So the topic most likely will be the scores of Math 1-to-1 students. Someone could formulate a slightly different research topic, okay, but something to that effect. Research question. What is the average score of Math 1-to-1 students? And now every question deserves an answer. Here, the answer now will be called a hypothesis because there is no data. Okay, so it appears the person said the minimum. Here it is. The minimum is 65%. So the claim is minimum. Now we have identified the symbol for minimum is more than or equal to. Okay, so in symbolic form now, it will be mu is greater than or equal to 65. And this symbol can also be found in this very important table. This is the table you can use to translate from words to symbolic form. So minimum is like more than or equal to, more than or equal to is like greater than or equal to, at least, no less than, the minimum, okay, the least amount. So here it is, more than or equal to. And the alternative now will be in the opposite direction without the equal sign. Here it is. It will be less than, okay? And that will have to complete the pair. Well, let's do the objective first. So what are we going to do? We're going to determine the average score of Math 1-to-1 students. If we look at the steps in this diagram, steps number 1, 2, and 3 can be done in one attempt. Translate to mathematical form, identify if it is a null or not, and to complete the pair. So the mere fact that this statement has the equal sign, here it is, the mean is greater than or equal to. Here we're going to put step number 1 and 3. It is a null statement because it has the equal sign. Bear in mind, not every time the claim will be a null, because the person could have said greater than. Okay? So it's not every time the claim is a null. Okay? Based on what the person said. This claim is a null because what the person said or what John said has an equal sign, more than or equal to. And the alternative now, bear in mind, you can use A or you can use 1 for alternative. 0 and 1 will be in the, or O and A will be in the opposite direction without the equal sign. Then we move on to steps number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Can be done one time. What is step number 4? Step number 4 says we've got to sketch a distribution curve. It's a bell-shaped curve. Step number 5 says we have to identify the critical region. For the z-test for mean, the critical region follows the sign of the alternative statement. So because our alternative statement is pointing towards the left, so therefore we have a left tail test. So this is the curve that we Here it is. This is the one that we can take a snapshot of. We're going to put it here. And we've got to place the critical region, the critical value on the critical point. That will be step number 6. Place the critical value on the critical point. The critical value here, we're going to use negative 1.96. Negative 1.96. On the critical point. Here we have 0 right there. 0 is in the middle. Now, what we need to do now, we're moving on to step number 7. We can use Excel to help us with that. Step number 7 says to calculate what you call a z-test statistic. Here's the formula. The values to calculate the z-test statistic will be provided. You don't have to calculate it. You don't have to calculate them. The values, here the values are. So the z-test statistics is equal to x bar, which is 60, subtract 65, which is mu, divided by the 5.6, which is standard deviation, divided by the square root of 121. And we got a value of negative 9.8. Step number 8 says we've got to plot the test statistic on the distribution curve. Negative 9.88 is more towards the left. Negative 9.82, sorry, of negative 1.96. And clearly we can see now that our test statistic is in the critical region. It's in the rejection region. So we're moving on to step number 9. Step number 9 is decision time. So since the test statistic is in the rejection region or the critical region, the null is rejected. And the conclusion time, remember it says for step number 10, which is conclusion time. If the null is rejected, then the alternative is the conclusion. If the null is not rejected, then the null itself is the conclusion. We rejected the null, so therefore the alternative is the conclusion. Since we have rejected the null, alternative is the conclusion, and we have to state it in words. Where is the alternative? Here it is. The mean is less than 65. That's what it is saying. So therefore, based on the data, the mean is less than 65, because that's what the alternative is saying, and that's the conclusion. That will be step number 9, and that will be step number 10. Bear in mind, in other text, they might have it in 7 steps, 6 steps, 8 steps, but here we have it in 10 steps. So here you have an example of number 25 in the assignment with another z-test for mean using the critical value approach.